Hello, friends. You've just unlocked another chapter of the past, hidden, untold, and waiting to be discovered. This is Buried Truths. Let's view the video. In the sweltering summer of 216 BC, Rome faced a catastrophe so total it would haunt its military for generations. The Battle of Cannae was more than a defeat. It was a masterpiece of tactical genius by a man raised to hate Rome. That man was Hannibal Barca. Hannibal was born in 247 BC into the powerful Barca family of Carthage. His father, Hannibal Barca, was a revered general of the First Punic War. From a young age, Hannibal absorbed the bitterness of Carthage's defeat and grew up in a world defined by Roman hostility and a thirst for revenge. According to ancient sources, when Hannibal was just 9 years old, his father made him swear a blood oath at a Carthaginian altar. The vow was chilling in its clarity. He would never be a friend to Rome. This moment forged the foundation of one of history's greatest military minds. Hannibal was educated in the Carthaginian military academies and served in campaigns across Iberia. He learned to command diverse troops, Africans, Iberians, Celts, and mastered logistics, cavalry warfare, and siege tactics. By his 20s, Hannibal was leading armies and gaining fierce loyalty from his troops. After Hamilcar's death, Hannibal's brother-in-law Hasdrubal was assassinated, and Hannibal was appointed commander-in-chief in Iberia. He quickly consolidated power, captured Roman-aligned cities, and reignited Carthage's military ambitions. His campaign against Saguntum, a Roman ally, directly challenged Rome's authority and triggered the Second Punic War. Hannibal was not just a general. He was a symbol of vengeance. His ambition to strike at the heart of Rome was shaped by years of cultural indoctrination, battlefield experience, and personal loss. He believed Rome must suffer not just defeat, but humiliation and collapse. This is where Hannibal's legendary journey truly began. His rise was not just the story of a general, it was the birth of a storm. The next phase would defy logic and geography as he prepared to do the unthinkable, march an army through the Alps and strike Rome where it least expected. When Hannibal set out from Iberia, he knew that to defeat Rome, he had to strike fear into its heart. The land route through the Alps was dangerous, nearly suicidal. But precisely because of that, it was unexpected. Hannibal's boldness would become legend, and his journey would test every limit. Beginning in the spring of 218 BC, Hannibal led an army of roughly 90,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, and nearly 40 elephants. He marched north through Gaul, negotiating with tribes, defeating resistance, and maintaining discipline among diverse forces. Rome did not expect him to bypass their naval blockade entirely. The journey through southern Gaul was treacherous. Hostile tribes harassed the column, forcing Hannibal into several skirmishes. Supplies were thin, and morale fluctuated. Still, Hannibal's leadership held the army together, promising them eternal glory and loot in Rome. Every mile pushed them closer to the Alps and to history. When Hannibal reached the Alps, his men were awestruck and terrified. Steep cliffs, narrow paths, and blizzards made the mountain passes nearly impassable. Many pack animals slipped and fell to their deaths. Soldiers froze, starved, or deserted. Yet Hannibal pressed on, driven by hatred and a strategic vision unlike any general before. Elephants became a symbol of both hope and horror. They terrified local tribes but struggled to survive the cold. Hannibal used them as psychological weapons, keeping the illusion of strength alive. Despite massive losses in men and beasts, the army emerged from the mountains into Italy, battered but unbroken. Historians estimate Hannibal lost nearly half his army in the Alps, but the psychological impact was devastating for Rome. No one believed a Carthaginian force could arrive from the north. Panic spread through the Republic. Hannibal had made the impossible real, and he wasn't finished yet. This daring Alpine crossing marked Hannibal as more than a commander. It made him a force of nature. Against geography, weather, and death itself, he carved a path to Rome. What awaited him on the plains of Italy would be bloodier, deadlier, and far more unforgettable. After emerging from the Alps, Hannibal's army wasted no time. He aimed straight at Rome's dominance, defeating them in successive battles. Rome, humiliated yet defiant, refused to surrender. The path to Cannae was paved with blood, fear, and Rome's desperate efforts to destroy the invader who defied their gods. In December 218 BC, Hannibal annihilated a Roman army at the Battle of Trebia. Roman troops, lured across a freezing river, were ambushed and crushed. Hannibal's use of hidden cavalry and timing shocked Roman commanders. This was not just a victory, it was a brutal lesson in tactical genius. Rome's next attempt came in June 217 BC at the Battle of Lake Trasimene. Hannibal orchestrated a perfect ambush, hiding thousands of troops in the foggy hills. The Romans marched blindly into death. Over 15,000 Romans were killed, and their general, Flaminius, was cut down trying to flee the carnage. Panic spread across Rome. Fear of Hannibal became a national obsession. The Senate appointed Fabius Maximus as dictator. His strategy was delay, don't engage. He avoided direct battle, shadowed Hannibal, and burned supplies to starve his army. While unpopular, Fabius's caution preserved Rome from further massacres, at least temporarily. But Rome was impatient. In 216 BC, political pressure led to a change in command. Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paulus, both consuls, were chosen to confront Hannibal. Varro, ambitious and overconfident, rejected Fabian tactics. Rome raised its largest army ever, over 80,000 men, to crush Hannibal once and for all. Hannibal, meanwhile, positioned his forces near Cannae, a flat open plain in southern Italy. The site was perfect for cavalry maneuvers and deception. Hannibal wanted Rome to bring everything it had, and he was prepared to use that strength against them in ways they never imagined. The Roman war machine now bore down on Cannae, confident in numbers, blind to genius. What began as a campaign to avenge past defeats would soon become a nightmare etched into Roman history, a place where the Republic nearly died in a single day of slaughter. On August 2, 216 BC, Rome deployed its largest army ever assembled, over 80,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry, confident in their numbers. Facing them was Hannibal with around 50,000 troops. The stage was set near the dusty plains of Cannae, where the fate of the Roman Republic would be decided in blood. Hannibal arranged his troops in a crescent formation, placing his weakest units, Gauls and Iberians, in the center. His African veterans were placed behind, slightly angled inward. His cavalry, led by Hasdrubal and Maharbal, was split on both wings. It was an open invitation for Rome to attack head-on. The Roman consuls chose aggression. Under Varro's command, the legions advanced in dense columns straight at Hannibal's center. At first, the Carthaginian line buckled. Romans believed they were winning. But Hannibal's retreat was intentional, pulling the legions deeper into the trap, a trap that was now snapping shut. As the Roman infantry pressed forward, Hannibal's African troops pivoted inward from both sides. They struck the Roman flanks with precision. At the same time, Carthaginian cavalry had already defeated the Roman horsemen and now charged into the rear. The Roman army was completely encircled. Crushed from all sides, the Romans couldn't maneuver or breathe. Their tightly packed formations became a death trap. Hannibal's men cut through them methodically. The dust, blood, and heat suffocated any hope of escape. Discipline turned to chaos. For hours, the slaughter continued in silence, broken only by screams. By sunset, between 50,000 to 70,000 Roman soldiers lay dead. Both consuls were either killed or captured. Never before had Rome suffered such devastation in a single day. Hannibal had achieved what every Carthaginian dreamt of, humiliating Rome on its own soil in front of the gods. The Battle of Cannae became a synonym for annihilation. Military strategists would study it for centuries. But for Rome, it wasn't history, it was trauma. An entire generation was buried in a day. And while Hannibal stood victorious, the war was far from over. The empire's worst nightmare had only begun. Hannibal's victory at Cannae was no accident. It was a masterpiece of battlefield engineering, His tactic, known as the double envelopment, remains one of the greatest military maneuvers in history. Hannibal didn't just defeat the Roman army, he dismantled it with surgical precision and psychological brilliance. As the Roman infantry advanced, they believed they were pushing Hannibal's forces into retreat. His crescent-shaped formation slowly collapsed inward, but instead of breaking, it absorbed the Roman pressure, drawing their dense columns into the narrowing center, while deliberately overstretching their formation without them realizing. Hannibal's African infantry waited patiently on both flanks. When the Roman center was fully committed, the veterans turned inward in a perfectly timed pivot. This enveloped the Roman sides, initiating the first stage of the trap. The Roman flanks, now under sudden assault, had nowhere to go. Meanwhile, the Carthaginian cavalry, led by Hasdrubal, had defeated the Roman horsemen on both wings. The Numidian cavalry pursued the retreating Roman cavalry, while the heavy cavalry swept behind the Roman rear, completing the full encirclement. The second phase of the envelopment snapped into place. Inside the circle, panic erupted. Roman soldiers were packed so tightly that they couldn't use their weapons. Each man became an obstacle to the other. Hannibal's troops slaughtered them with grim efficiency. The pressure crushed both morale and flesh. The battlefield became a slaughterhouse without escape. This trap was unprecedented. Most ancient battles were decided by morale or flanking attacks. But Hannibal had invented a method to trap and destroy a superior force completely. The double envelopment became the gold standard for battlefield tactics, studied by generals, from Napoleon to Schwarzkopf. Cannae didn't just defeat Rome militarily, it shattered their strategic pride. In a single day, Hannibal demonstrated that tactical brilliance could overcome overwhelming numbers. It was a lesson Rome would never forget. Though they survived as a state, they would never again underestimate the mind of Hannibal Barca. After the carnage at Cannae, the Roman Republic teetered on the brink of collapse. Entire legions were gone, senators and nobles lay dead, and Italy was in shock. Cities defected to Hannibal. Yet instead of surrendering, Rome chose something far more dangerous, unyielding vengeance shaped by fear and fury. Rome's reaction was swift and ruthless. They refused to negotiate with Hannibal, even rejecting ransom for prisoners. New legions were raised from slaves and boys. The battlefield loss had birthed a psychological transformation. Rome became a state fueled by obsession, a relentless machine determined never to fall again. Fabius Maximus was recalled. His delaying tactics, once mocked, were now seen as salvation. Rome avoided large-scale battles with Hannibal, wearing him down through attrition. Hannibal, though victorious, lacked reinforcements. Carthage refused to fully support him. What he needed most, men, siege engines, and political unity, never came. Over time, Rome regained lost ground. One by one, Hannibal's allies abandoned him. A new Roman general, Scipio Africanus, arose and brought the war to Carthage's doorstep. In 202 BC, Hannibal was finally defeated at the Battle of Zama, ending the Second Punic War. Rome had turned survival into dominance. Cannae, however, left scars. It haunted Roman military doctrine. For centuries, Roman generals studied it to understand failure. Some even carried small tokens of the battle as reminders of what happens when pride replaces caution. It became a word of shame, reverence, and warning in Roman culture. Hannibal's legacy endured too. Cannae was his finest hour, and though he never captured Rome, he had reshaped its identity. Military academies still teach the battle as the ultimate example of tactical genius. His double envelopment is replicated in modern warfare simulations to this day. The ghost of Cannae walks through military history. It is a symbol of what brilliance can achieve and what arrogance can lose. Though Rome survived, it was never the same. Hannibal had etched his name not just in history, but into the soul of Rome itself. Thanks for watching Buried Truths. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden corners of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful stories from history's hidden vault. See you in the next video.